All right, let's get started. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good evening. Checking news. Tuesday, June 5th. It's June already. Half the year is gone. uh, so today, and I want to look at this week too. I have not looked yet. See what kind of week we have. We just got past non-farm Friday news. It's typically a good week after that, but it's good to be past that. So today, June 5th, we have a bunch of light Euro news over the next hour from different countries. Just services PMI, nothing crazy. So it's over the next hour on the euro. Every what is this? Every 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Then we have high impact for the pound at the usual time. Same thing. Services PMI, leading indicator of economic health. That's listed as high impact. So if the euro over the next hour is having a particular uh, activity that's not showing up elsewhere, it could be due to that news. And then again, the usual time, hour and a half from now, high impact for the pound. 3 hours of more news for the pound. It's a speech. I'm not really worried about that. And U.S. session, the usual. Actually, it's a little later in the day. High impact non-manufacturing PMI. Everybody's doing PMI today. It's PMI day. Oh, now you know. Aren't you glad I'm here to tell you these things? And that's high impact news for U.S. And that's a couple hours into U.S. session. It's just the usual stuff. Nothing to really worry about. Just be aware of. All right. Coffee is ready. In 1 second here, get to the charts. Okay, here we are. Now, where's my slippers? All right, coffee and slippers. We're good. So, euro dollar. How you doing? All right. Euro dollar was very nice last week. So, continuing on through just to pick up where we left off. There was this downtrend going for a while. It went out with a bang. We picked the bottom there. We knew this trend was about to turn. We have a couple of levels that we had marked in advance. Basically looks like this is from last week, a 618 overshoot once, twice. Now it's kind of ignoring that 618, so I'd rather just mark that up with support resistance at this point. But let's see what volume's telling us about the future here, because we did have the predictable bounce, but we went sideways, and we still have a lot of volume here. So what's going on, right? Is it weakness? Is it reaccumulation of long positions? So again, here was the turning point in the trend. We immediately started marking up once we got past here. If you remember that, this technically begins the markup. I think that's where we had a trade, right? Break test. And then we reached this area. And let's take a look at what happened since. And remember, there's a lot of large buying to the left. And where is smart money positioned from? Are they still holding those positions? They're positioned from here, and they're still in it until you see them getting out. Now, the first thing that stands out, we'll get to this day because this has to be looked at closer, right? Let me just mark this up here. Today is Tuesday. Okay. The way this day ended, and then Friday. But I'd like to look at that more closely because the 1 hour is very unclear as to what that was. It was likely a mix of buying and selling. But what really stands out, first of all, and is more recent in the background, of course, is that, which is a fake break pattern and a very high volume rejection there, right? And you see the result. And we also see that these higher prices have, I got to make you think a little bit, low volume. So the most recent activity is large buying into this down move, and we'll see how concentrated and clear that is. It could be a mess, but likely it's large buying. It's late on a Friday. Interesting. So supply-demand balance, right? High demand. And then new high ground gets exposed here with very little activity. So we have an imbalance, right? Large demand, small supply. It really just jumps out at you in this case. If we had same amounts of volume off the top and bottom, we would maybe be stuck in a range for a while. If we had weakness coming in at the high points more than anything else, we would say, okay, maybe we're coming back down here to reaccumulate more, right? But this is clearly an imbalance to the bullish side. Let me just mark everything up again. And again, we always do at the beginning of the week, but it's just nothing to see here. It's a trend reversal. Okay, we know this. So I do want to look at this, but it's not even that important because there's so much activity this day. I want to see that. But let me just put back my weekend. So Friday with the large strength into the down move. Does the 5-minute back that up? Is it really what it appears to be? We have low prices and strength, yes. So there was some large buying into the selling here. It broke new ground there. There wasn't that much activity, but again, they showed up here, which may be some level. I don't know. That was back to the low of the day, basically, or a swing low. So that does back up. Again, it could have been signs of weakness here, right? And then we would have known really what it is. Here is weakness that actually showed up as a 5-minute spike fake break there. But to get perspective on that weakness and the strength, right, just to back out, there is our, okay, really weakness has shown up. Not a ton of volume, and here we see some weakness here. And I want to kind of compare that and get perspective on how much that is. Yeah, look at the buying into the down moves. It's huge. Again, that was that late Friday buying. There's the result, and then again after that you see some weakness. There's also buying into these moves. Okay, it's sort of a mix here. So, all right, that's all we got to know. So it's not like totally insanely out of bounds where we see no signs of weakness. There was a bit, but much larger to the buy side. Okay. So basically, I'm taking this as this markup just kind of took a break for the weekend. Is likely going to continue, and there was likely some bit of profit taking, but most of these positions are still in there, and they're expecting it to move up. So let's mark up areas for long entries, and once we see strength, and I don't know how much we've seen yet this week. This fib, yeah, I can live with it, but it's really more about what is in there, which is that level. But there are higher levels to look at too. We're just marking everything up here. The soonest I would consider an edge, basically we need a down move and a sign of strength, right? Down move, sign of strength. Otherwise, we're talking about chasing breakouts or scalp entries or something. But the traditional trade, we're going to call this reaccumulation because again, accumulation, markup, and reaccumulation. So If we can move down, we're looking for signs of strength. We'll just mark up other areas of interest. This has moved down to there. Of course, we have potentially a 618 overshoot. That's sort of not much confluence behind that. There is a recent support. Just finding where the buyers are, and if we revisit areas, and confluence levels. There's not a lot of confluence here. This is sort of the weekend and the middle of the range. I mean, the best trade would be down here, but it may not get there, and it may set up higher. But if it does drop there, just remember I said that. Starting from it's a big zone, but really setting up through here, the best entry is a fake break of this level. That's probably the highest probability long situation that could happen here. Now we'd have to have some huge down move, but sometimes these things happen, right? Surprisingly, it could come to you. We haven't really had much of a down move here, too. It would accomplish a few things, too. We would kick out some of the long positions, hit their stop. We would trap sellers, which would give more of an opportunity, smart money to buy larger amounts. And particularly breaking this level, there'll be even more chasers selling here, which could be, again, a large buy opportunity. But, so there's that option. More realistically, it may not get there. And the zone is, I'm trying to, again, this is all just kind of sloppy Friday, trying to clean this up. It's such a big zone here. But let's just say it's down move and strength. We have a fib there and a level. It could be a fake break of yesterday's swing point. Not the cleanest as far as levels, but our background is pretty good. Let's just move down and see some strength, right? We'll take it from there. But this would be the soonest I would consider this, able to show us strength. Like I say, you got to get out of this little range, see some new prices, and hit some sort of level that has some sort of meaning. And, there's a swing point and a fib zone, so that works. We'll see if the buyers show up there. If it just moves up, on the other hand, I don't love it. Maybe a scalp entry, but if there's something better, I would rather take something else. So, but we'll come back and look at this again. Moving right along. Gosh, it looks like, what did I draw there? The Freemason symbol or something. Oh, let's do that for fun. All day we're using this. Okay. Pound dollar. Similar. So again, it's the daily chart, trend reversal. And spent a couple of days sideways. Remember, the issue was last week, the euro dollar was really convincing, but were the others so convincing? And eventually they did convince that they were turning bullish. Let's look at the recent volume, make sure everything is still pointing bullish, which would, first thing I want to look at is the high price, right? And again, we don't see profit taking. We don't see high volume. Even though it's a Monday, it's still, on the lower side. Here is high volume buying into a dip. Here's high volume leading to a higher close on lower volume. And then we get through that area off very little activity, kind of off hours. Monday. And the selling here is just because there is really lack of buyers up here. They're not stupid. They're lower. But we haven't really seen strength stand out. We'll look at the 5-minute. But this is just dying to come down and give a sign of strength at this point, right? With the lack of selling, the lower prices that have come in now, right? The buyers are going to show up, or they won't. But they're getting forced to reveal themselves the lower it goes. Let's see. So we have a bit of a deal there. No new members in here this week. I think everybody's been here at least a week or two, or much longer than that. So if you have any questions, you can ask. But I think you're all pretty familiar with what's going on here. Give me 1 second. All right. And just take a look at the 5 minutes, just to be thorough. Initial touch of the fib. We didn't really see the buyers, right? We want to see them. We didn't see a lot of selling either. And we know the strength in the background. That must have been news. Yeah, it's been pretty sloppy on the pound, but everything comes together if we get a sign of strength in this area. And start the setup from there. The best spot, right, it would be right there. Fake break yesterday's low in the fib zone. Of course, it could go down to 618 overshoot. I think all of you know that stuff now. So that would be the best. If it doesn't set up in here and breaks 618, it's could be a free fall situation. Who the heck? No, I wouldn't even mess with that down there. I'd let it come down and see if there's a double bottom pattern here, fake break pattern down there. So I wouldn't be doing anything beyond the 618 overshoot, beyond like 72. I would just let it go. If buyers aren't here, that says a lot. We lose the trend structure and everything else, and they might be all the way down there. Of course, there's not enough weakness to sell, and I wouldn't be looking to do that. Other opportunities, if this thing moves up, so that's if it moves down, we're looking for strength in here. If it moves up, depending on when it starts to retrace, right, there could be that. So I have to kind of project. So if we move down, we know we're looking for strength. If we move up, we're looking for the pullback that gives strength. That's a hypothetical, depending on where this thing goes, right? But the way things tend to, if the market wants to be really clean, this is the kind of stuff that it does. For example, okay, let's make that 50 fib. And things start to snap together sometimes. So something like that. Because why? Because that's where sellers are, right? We know this. We're not looking to go short. But if you move down and you hit a 50 to 618, you're likely to hit some selling more than you are below it or above it, right? So if the sellers are up there, not large, we don't want high volume weakness, but a little spike on the 5 minute, whatever. And then we got our setup there. So you get the idea there. It's a dip on strength after seeing a higher price that's not showing too much weakness. All right. And I'll put this fib in again. It's not because we're going short. It's because whether you're in a trade or not, this is where sellers may become active, and you can get information about how active they are. If they don't show up at all, it says, "Wow, it's really bullish," right? They could show up on very high volume, say, "Okay, well, we're going down." They show up on medium volume and say, "Okay, there's an opportunity to buy the dip when it properly happens." All right. So remember, the AU has been sloppy. We actually do have upward trend structure now instead of just this silly old range that it was in for the whole month of May, pretty much. Trying to get out, failed for the fake break. And we ended off the month. We're out. We are out. We actually have higher highs and higher lows. What do you know? I say that because it's been so choppy. I mean, this is a week, right? So it's this is the whole month of May. So we're just barely doing that. We're finally getting out. You know, these moods of the market come and go. You know, there are other times you have this. That's a few weeks of buy the dips. Very simple. But that's the way it's been this year. Actually, yeah, very clearly. Here's January. Is not a lot of trades on the AU or AJ. It's just less attention, less volatility on it. It sort of tags along sometime with whatever the U.S. dollar is doing, or it can have its own little move and then kind of go back to sleep. But here we got out of the range, and let's take a look. Actually happened on a Monday. Interesting. So again, that's this high, and that's really finally new high ground. That was back a couple of weeks ago. So we finally made it new high ground here, and you see, just to show things that we already know, right? Low volume on the break. Even from a 1 hour point of view, it's particularly low, right? I think it's the opposite of a sign of weakness, the opposite of a fake breakout. So we see that the sellers are really non-existent there. Off it goes. So this strong move is not so much, if you notice the volume, just to understand this move, the volume is pretty low, really low on some of these, right? But look at the progress it made. It's lack of selling. So it didn't take a lot of activity. It didn't take a lot of buying to have this result because selling was up higher and higher, right, to make the exchange. I had to move up and find them. So selling very scarce. If we look at the top, the profit-taking area, we do have a little activity up there, but initially we're still really low up in the high prices. Let's see the 5-minute off the high. How much weakness, but I think we're still know that it's not going to be enough to change the long bias. Here's some weakness. There's some weakness. And then we had a little high activity for a while, which is a mix of buying and selling. No real movement. Kind of a mix of buying and selling throughout here. All right. So we have lack of selling, pretty extreme, but the sign of strength has not occurred. The 5-minute again, and then looking at today so far. Are they buying? Are they buying? Not so much. Not so much, right? It looks like a wait and see, we're not sure exactly what we're doing kind of situation here. Because I would expect some, see the swing point, we break it, we expect some buying to come in if they are looking to buy, if they're in buy mode. And we just looked at that and really not showing up there much. But it all comes together with a sign of strength here, if we can get that. So these, slightly different analysis, but the weak U.S. dollar is apparently driving the situation. Soonest I would consider would be a fake break of this level, and it would have to look really good because it's kind of high up. But we need that sign of strength. It matches the background. We have some decent momentum. We looked at the structure, higher highs, higher lows. We made it out of the range that we were in for a month, and again, stayed out there. It's not a fake breakout. We don't have a lot of weakness. So the background is bullish. We just need that proper sign of strength at the right spot here. So we can have a fake break there. We could have... See, in these cases, I don't love it because if we come back to a fib retracement, we're back inside the old range, and we have a mixed failed breakout, but we're trying to buy off of a failed breakout pattern, right? So ideally, we're staying above that. So a fib retracement, maybe, but it's not a clean, everything's lining up because that makes this breakout fail. But if you look at it on its own, right, we have our move up, our retracement, our move up, our retracement, and this pattern in itself is fine. And for a trade to have one thing that doesn't exactly line up doesn't mean I won't take it if the other information is really good. So if we did end up coming down here and we just saw signs of strength all throughout, weakness is very low volume, a clean setup off of this area, that's fine. I would take it. But not if it's a questionable setup. It's not so clean, right? Sometimes you have a really great background, and the 5-minute, I put less requirements on that to be perfect. In this case, buying here, not so great with the background, but a clean 5-minute I would take. Otherwise, we're talking about the fake break or the retest of the old range, right? Break test continuation. And a simple 5-minute setup here or there, which is more likely to happen than this one, right? Depending on the pip count, like even an entry here off a sign of strength here, the point is this, again, you get a bearish piece of information when you break below this point. So if you were to get in long before then, a stop loss below it would be wise, right? So if you're taking the fake breakout, price moves down to here, you don't want to get stopped out because this is a level to test for buyers. If they don't show up, that's when things turn, right? And we talked about that. It is a fake break bearish pattern. So ideally, it's one of these. Sean, it's coming off a longer term 618 as well. I just saw that. Is that? Oh yeah, that was a minute ago. You said okay. 618 must be talking about when you say longer term. Okay. Yeah, when it comes to like long periods of sideways stuff, I try to really not draw the fibs. But then again, yeah, it doesn't hurt. You might be right. See if there's a reaction off of that. I mean, if we want to go nuts on what's to the left, there is this swing point here. I'm not too worried about that. Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, it's a 618 overshoot. Where have I seen that before? But like I say, when price goes sideways for a while, I kind of don't draw the fib. I end up just going with support resistance levels, and I could have just drawn a resistance level there. But sometimes you go, okay, maybe, and you put the fib in and you go, okay. This actually slowed down for a couple hours right at 50 fib, and then of course we know this pattern. So when it reacts to the fib, you've likely drawn a good one. So I give a gold star to Sean. Okay, look to buy the dips. It would take a lot of volume and weakness to change this stuff. Like a fake break here, and it's very high volume on the 1 hour and the 5 minutes showing weakness, fake break pattern. Would have to go higher prices and high volume weakness to change any of this bullishness. Good, we're coming down. That's what we want. More times than not, the price will go to where we want it to go. It's definitely the less often situation where we're seeing prices run off without us. There's a reason why these things happen, though, because we're trading right. Yes. More coffee. One second. You just see me moving my mouse, right? Looks like I'm just moving my mouse for no reason. Okay. So AJ, daily chart. What do we have here? It's a range. Certainly no trend structure of any kind. Obviously, it's a range. It's a pretty clean one. Now, I just want to compare to the other Yens. Quite a difference. Oh yeah, it's that Australian dollar chop. The AJ didn't quite get out of it. Even though, again, the EJ daily. We're looking at all these downtrends reversing, right? Dollar, yen. But as we know, Australian dollar has been in this lazy mode. So this is the one that's in a range from a daily point of view. Range trade, but let's mark it up. If volume is saying a particular direction, then I go with that. If it's not, and price is ranging, then it's a range trade. I'm sure we're going to get some correlation though, which is the move up and the lack of much weakness there. So if you look at it, I mean, right away it jumps out as bullish because of the volume, the reaction. We already talked about that with AU, where it's a strong move up on low volume. Why? Very little selling. So it didn't take much buying activity for that sort of result. High price. I mean, this is where they're supposed to be selling if they're really looking to do it, right? No deal there. So it's still very bullish, even though from a daily point of view, it's really would be buying right into the resistance. And with a resistance like that, it goes back to February, it's likely to have some sort of selling in here and get a bit mixed up. It's not just going to flow through like it's not even there. So buying into that, right? If sellers are lurking around, where are they? They're right there, right? So, and as you get close to it, so just keeping that in mind. Right now it's 60 pips away, so that's not an issue at the moment. So, same thing. Sometimes I take the long way around. Mark everything up. This fib I like. It's the beginning of this move after a bit of a range structure. And see what we have with confluences or anything here. It's a buy the dips day, ideally, unless it develops into something else here. Very large fib, but we mark it up. Plenty of times I've marked up these ads, probably not going to get there, and then it does, and it sets up. So I've learned to just draw it in there. It is the middle of the range, which I hate. But as I say, we're talking about a daily chart, and this is a big range. We dealt with this with the euro dollar, like for the first 4 months of the year. It looks like a range from a daily point of view, but it acts like a trend as it goes up and down. You get waves, you get fib retracements, you get climactic, you get reversal, and in the end, it doesn't really go anywhere. This is kind of doing that, but again, the Australian dollar's been a bit crappy, so it's not the greatest. But again, it's one move away from very simply, if it shows strength, a good trade. This is a bit high up, right? The fake break there. It's a bit close to the high. But let's see. Again, here's the high prices where a really good opportunity to, some sort of volume increase. They're getting out of positions. Eventually this happens. There's the higher volume to the high price. So that's where the some selling hit. Buying. Yeah, it's really not bad. If we look at this, the weakness, this is market open. All right, it's not horrible. Of course, the requirement is the good sign of strength on the 5 minute. In this case, I'd really would like to see something, stand out at least this high. It's really relative to the background, but still, I mean, if I'm taking this setup, I would like to see, of course, the higher the better, but at least that. If we could do this pre-market open, really, then it should be able to at least do that. That might have been news. Probably was. So that's the highest I would go long, starting off with the fake break, strength, test, entry. Then, whatever you could pull out here. There's the 50 EMA. It's just about coming down and seeing those signs of strength. I don't take them at random levels, at random areas. So that's why I'm always trying to focus on something here. 50 EMA. and all these things. But just to point out, because this does happen. So we have levels marked 50 EMA, these areas to look for strength, long setup. But if it does go to, let's say, a random area like here and start to bounce, then a fake break is a pattern in itself. Let's say that's a support. 3-4 hours later, it does a fake break and a 5-minute setup, right? So now it's a pattern, it's a level. So a fake break can happen anywhere, and I would take it. But a single sign of strength, I don't just take anywhere because they just happen all over the place, right? Just the ones that occur in these obvious areas that are much higher probability. So aside from a fake break pattern, I would wait for 50 EMA in these areas. Or a fake break here. Good 5-minute spike. Now, if it moves up, it's likely not going to hit much activity and make it to this level. Would I take this scalp? It would have to be really good. Meaning that if we get into new high ground here and we're not seeing weakness and we get that nice break test continuation, 14 EMA, or moving up and the volume's low off a high price and a 5-minute, right? That sort of thing. But that's a clear level. It's a 84.50. And again, there was very little selling. If you don't see selling into higher prices, it's likely going there. It's a decent spot for a scalp. And then very likely to have some sort of pullback. Off of that 50, 84.50. Let's see. Any questions? No? Okay, good. It's kind of the same thing over and over again, but it has its variation. I'm just the messenger. But it's a buy the dip day unless something changes. Let's see. Still moving down. Good, good, good. Or at least not up. This guy. Yep. I'm good with those. We got to move down and see that strength. So a couple more. It looks like it's the same thing. Let's go faster. High speed analysis. That's the next thing everybody's doing. Let's do a double speed. Daily chart. Trend reversal. High volume. We already know this. Okay. Everything's correlating. This is the yen pairs correlating with the dollar pairs, which is the best condition for the market when the US dollar and the yen are correlating. And all of these pairs have the same bias, the same direction, minus anything that might have some issues like the Australian dollar or something. But they're all doing the same story. Again, EJ, you see buying, selling to these higher prices, really not there. So where would we mark up some levels? Let's see, yesterday's low. We touched it there. This is all kind of high up, but just to mark and be aware of it. That I would consider a valid spot because it's the low. It's a swing low of yesterday. These start to feel kind of random, but you could do them. Can't really say it's wrong. Okay, this is really far away. Just putting it there, putting it out there. If we have a down day and then tomorrow, normally I'm drawing these levels here that you could look for. I'm looking for levels of confluence, and it's just kind of all over the place, right? There's no levels that are twice. Everything's one time. Happens there, but then we get this high, but no. But again, let's move down and see that strength. So again, I do like this spot. You can also draw this in. Again, it's about moving down, seeing the strength, and if it does happen, it's likely going to happen because we have a correlated situation. You'll see that strength coming in on more than one pair, and if you're looking at, let's say, 3, 4 pairs, 5 pairs that are starting to show this pattern of down moving strength, more than not, they should be at some sort of level. So it just comes together like that on clean setups. So this guy could be doing the fake break there at the same time, right? The pound is maybe just hitting this level and popping through, right? And things kind of 2, 3, 4 of them have that sign of strength in an area that makes sense. Then you know it's going down. This could have a fake break there, right? Whatever it is. They could all be coming back to some 50 EMA at the same time, right? So that sort of thing. Um, so hopefully that's clear what I mean. The other side of that is, let's say you have one pair that's setting up and all of the others are not, right? This is a correlated situation that tells you it's not the event, the thing that we're looking at. So again, like if this comes down, it gives a nice long setup, EJ, but you look at AJ, pound, yen, pound, dollar, and none of these are showing signs of strength starting to come in. Maybe the euro dollar and the EJ are showing the strength, right? Because it's a euro thing. Not as good probability. It doesn't mean it's wrong. A trade is a trade. But when they all start to come together, it gets driven by the US dollar yen correlation, then it's likely to go down off of that. I mean, move up and go down, meaning slang. It's going to go down. Like shit's going down. Move up, right? Yen, pound yen. That Euro news isn't doing anything, right? It's light impact. Pound yen. Again, same thing. And the same. For something to move up this much, Friday, Monday, right? Not exactly trends starting to play out days, but here they are. And again, very little activity. I explained why. We don't have weakness. This is a fake break pattern just because the market likes to do that when it turns, but you notice that the volume's low, really low. So the selling through here is just very little. So again, I think we kind of get the idea. Fib, I like this because it's the beginning of the up move after chop. Previous resistance turns support, fib zone. I think we know the deal. You can do things like this, even though it's kind of been there, just to be aware that that is an area to find out some information about buyers. Also the box. Put a 5-minute box. And then you can draw the reverse fibs to tell you about sellers. This tells us about sellers. And it just price stop there, but not much volume. It's probably a larger fib. Mr. Sean has already drawn. There it is. There or here. Yeah, they're so similar. Probably go with that. And again, these higher prices we now see are really into a fib area, and it kind of makes it even more significant that the sellers didn't show up, because it's not just nothing, right? That's 50 fib. That's fib zone. So if that happened there, it's likely going to get through it when it tries to do that and not run into any issue until maybe here, right? But again, new high ground on a trend always tells you some good information. This would be new high ground here. So there'd be some information about sellers right there, right there. Okay, so that's where we are on the main pairs. Give me a minute here, and I'll be back. Buy the dips on strength. Come down. looks like I had this on some sort of autosave. So I removed things and then it saved and then I go to my thing and it's not there. Autosave off now. You know, I fight with this thing. So this is what we had, if you remember, last time. I didn't touch it. And we ended up, I don't have any volume either. Let's try refreshing. I pay for this, you know. Free MT4, better than everything. They're not going to give me volume? Now I know I didn't remove the volume. It's crazy. It's nonsense. These are all from May. I don't have the one that I actually made months ago. God. Oh, God. Well, at least I have volume. Hey, moving averages. Okay, wait. Save. All right. There's the, oh, very good. Can we call it something else? Or, oh, gosh. All right. Question. Oh, my gosh. Genius. I just like doing it right now. It's like training my brain to remember I can do that. That must be what I did by accident. Drives you insane before you realize. Luckily, it's not my main charting. Otherwise, I would be going insane with this thing. It's got that thing when you draw an indicator, you have to click again. Otherwise, you pull your mouse away and you drag it off. You're like, oh, MT4 is rules all. Okay. So these guys, did a bounce, and we were talking about that last week. We had that fib in there. Okay, so now, which was here, and how it developed, we can see that some new high ground tells us about sellers, right? So here we ran into some, here we ran into some, right? It really started to stand out compared to like recent, and because this continued up after that, so it's not really proper weakness. These guys actually stopped the progress. And down we go. And there is buying into these dips, as there always is on these things, right? So we wait for the two. We wait for that to really stop rather than continue to new low prices after the strength. But there's a really obvious fib there. So I just clicked that once, nothing happened. Is this going to give me a fib? No. Oh, gosh. Click it twice. The fibs don't snap to price. Oh, my gosh. See if I let go, it's all right. I'll stop complaining. So this is an obvious one here. I like the fact that a 618 overshoot is also a fake break of that swing point. But either way, down here would be a good place to see buying. But what do I say? I need more than one, even if it's everything else is there. Because again, buying is going to happen. There are those that are just buying dips. It's because a lot of it's automated. So it's really when it stops. So so here we could have a double bottom pattern within here, strength, strength, higher high, right? Get through the 14 EMA on the 1 hour because strong transit rejects it, right? So those sort of things, like I say with this, that's what tells me that I can actually trust that strength to turn it around. And I can trust everything else. Again, unlike Forex, it's different. Again, if these buyers don't show up here, goes beyond 618 overshoot and they don't show up, it's waiting time right down here. And see if buyers start showing up here, create a double bottom or something there. So very simple, very patient, no stress. And the correlation is there as usual with these guys. It really comes down to, I think I'm settling into this sort of few trades a month from a day trading point of view on this thing. And then when it goes really much lower, considering longer term positions. But again, as I say, I always have to say this because I know other people actually just look to buy low because price is low. They don't really know how to trade. They just kind of got it right, but not really. But if we drop really beyond any of these levels, um, you wait for it to stop still, and you wait for that double low, and you wait for that or the structure to change and all that. Otherwise, a few day trades a month seem to be maybe where I'm settling into this. But we have the correlation here. This actually went a little below 618, and ooh, that's some buying you want to see at 618 right there. Okay, that was a real sell-off. It actually did continue after that. And then here's our buying in this area, which is still relatively high. This makes everything look small, but if you look back, strength, strength, it's relatively decent. Not huge, though. Do I trust that? No, not quite yet. Definitely not. 14 EMA still holding down price. I mean, if things are reversing, it should be able to get through the 14 EMA in the 1 hour, right? At least that. So until that happens, not really worried about it. 14 EMA, 50 EMA. 14 again here may bring it down. So it's just about convincing me it's reversing. Otherwise, I'll let it go down. All right. A few minutes left. I'll summarize in a minute. Just watch things for a bit. There's not really going to be much to say summarizing wise because nothing's occurred since in the last hour. We were pretty thorough with this, repeating the analysis 6 times. So I had to put a name on it or a headline or a news headline. What does the market know? They're tentatively bullish. Tentatively bullish. We have this trend reversal to the left. We don't have a lot of weakness into the up moves, but the buying, we want to see that confident buying. I think it's more of a hold, wait, and see on those long positions at this particular point in time. But lower prices will likely attract them, so got to be patient. And just for the I mean, it's obviously we were talking about Friday, but that was the non-farm news. Again, that's what that, and it was as can happen sometimes, not every time, but there was in this case a clear outcome from that. And this is the day before non-farm, which we talk about that things get a little sloppy. So remembering that it's really a reminder of how bullish this is. Again, with the trend reversal clearly happening the day before non-farm stuff, and then yesterday the buying of the dip. I mean Friday, the non-farm being bullish, having a bullish effect. And again, the high price is not showing much profit taking off of that all that buying. We know that they're long, they're holding it, but they haven't really bought up any large amounts since. It's just sort of risen due to lack of selling. We need some bad news. Somebody started a rumor about, it's always a good one is the Eurozone, that a country's going to default or leave the Eurozone. Brexit, Grexit, Spexit. That would be Spain. Spain part of the Euro? Yeah. Start some rumors. No, really bad news would be helpful. This is the way the game is played. Let me check the news so far. So it's services PMI day. Let's have really bad services PMI day. Let's have negative. It's basically they're talking about if the economy is expanding or contracting based on the number coming out compared to the previous. It's mixed to slightly positive for the euro. Maybe the pound will be bad. We need bad news. I'm telling you, I'm not the only one saying this. It all comes together. But that's for the, looking to buy now. So the left, we already know that the buyers are in it. So if we just go up, they're good. But we'd be a step behind trying to chase it. There's scalp entries and break tests and all that. But, the real entries were Friday and then Tuesday. This was our hypothetical move up, fib retracement, strength, no weakness. But again, moving down is the best thing we can do. It may be, U.S. session that it finally comes down and gives a sign of strength. Could be on U.S. news in 6 hours. Who knows? But as long as we're moving down, we're doing the right thing here. All right, guys. I think we know what we're doing here. Buy the dips on strength. And the alternative is if we're just moving up, the scalp entry is a reasonable thing to look for. Just make sure the weakness is not there before an entry. Make sure you're not buying right into a level that's likely to reject price. And you have your little spaces, your spots here and there. Watch out for fibs and things on that. All right, guys. Should come around. Just got to be patient. But it's a good condition. And non-farm gave a clear result. So that's the best. All right, guys. Have a good one. See you tomorrow.